At age 60, I accidentally went snorkeling with 3 Swedish models. Not on purpose, but I became Mrs. Potato Head in 10 seconds flat. When I was younger, I was a competitive swimmer. I love the water, always have. And in Costa Rica, there are pictures everywhere of people going into the water, deep diving, swimming around like mermaids. And so I wanted to go snorkeling. So I went to the lobby and looked at the posters and went up to the dive desk. And I was thinking about, dinner cruise, a little snorkeling, but he had a deal. He said he had a party of 3 the next morning and they like to go out in 4s. And he would give me a discount rate if I wanted to complete that party of 4. And I said, sure, I jumped at the deal, but I had to be down there at 6:30 the next morning. So I signed up right away and went back to my room. I was so excited. I could barely sleep. And so the next morning, I got up, put on my swimsuit and my clothes over and my shoes. And mind you, I am 60 years old. So I go down to the lobby and I'm very excited. The dive desk is open, waiting. There's a guy with a van outside and waiting. So I take a little seat on the bench and wait for the rest of the party to show up. I'm sitting there looking at my shoes, wondering how this is going to go. And out of the corner of my eye, I see 3 gorgeous women coming toward me. They look like they're moving in slow motion, and they are gorgeous. They are from Sweden, and they are supermodels. And here I am in my t-shirt and capris, my clunky older lady tennis shoes, and they have on designer sandals, bikini tops, short shorts, navel jewelry, toe rings, and their teeth sparkle like a toothpaste ad. I was immediately Mrs. Potato Head. I had that sinking feeling, the one, where I suddenly wondered, what had I gotten myself into? I completely lost my confidence and went from being the adventurous older gal to someone who should not be left unsupervised. I'm sure you've experienced that. But that wasn't all, because that was just the start. I have the whole story recorded here. This is a story from one of my sketchbooks. It isn't hard to recall when you have it all written down, and even better, illustrated. So we've got the beginning, we've got the middle, and later I'll show you the end. They acknowledged me, but didn't really look at me. They were talking among themselves. And I just thought, what have I done? What am I going to do? Can I just suddenly have a medical emergency? But I really wanted to go snorkeling. And I used to be a real water dog. I mean, I should be able to do this, right? You don't forget how to swim. I mean, everybody floats in the water, right? Well, I always used to. At any rate, the van came. We all piled in. And it was one humiliating incident after another. We went and got fitted for our outfits for the day. I just got fins and a mask and a snorkel. They were scuba, which means they got spandex, which of course they looked fabulous in. My fins didn't even fit. My feet were swollen that day, and they had to give me the next size up. Oh, great. Well, that was the way it was going. But it was time to get back in the van and go to wherever the boat was. Well, I kept watching for a dock of some kind, which never appeared. Actually, after 20 minutes or so, the van just pulled over to the side of the road and told us to get out. And I'm looking, well, I see the water down there, but where's the dock? Where's the boat? Oh my God. It was a steep bank, dirt, straight down towards the water. And I was thankful for my heavy-duty tennis shoes at that point, because I did get down the bank. But still, no dock, no boat. Instead, there's this little skiff in the water that they called a water taxi, and had a little ladder on the back, like the kind you get up in a bunk bed. Oh my gosh. I'm stuck. I'm absolutely stuck. Everybody just starts wading right into the water. I mean, we literally walked into the water. Now, if you've ever been to Costa Rica, the native people there, they are a smaller people. And the men are generally called ticos, T-I-C-O, tico. Need I say, it took 3 ticos to get me in the water taxi. I was not steady going up that boat, so there was one on each side pulling me and one at the bottom giving me a push. Oh my goodness. The models just didn't look over my way, which I was glad for. And then that little boat took us to a bigger boat. Evidently the water's too shallow there for the big boat to come in. Oh, another adventure getting from the little boat to the big boat. Wasn't quite as bad because I wasn't down in the water. Now, before we even left the water taxi area, another water taxi pulled up, and 4 more beautiful scuba people in spandex got out and boarded the boat. Oh joy. Now I'm with 7 of them. I'm the only odd fish out of water on the boat. And then on the big boat, it's a half-hour ride out to the location where we're going to get in the water. Now that was pleasant. The wind's blowing your hair. And I did just kind of stay to myself, and the other girls were talking among themselves. They smiled at me and, you know, oh, we're just so friendly. Yeah. Anyway, my mind is racing a mile a minute. How are we going to get through this day? Well, I had a stroke of luck. The dive master turned out to be a young woman, and her name was Hannah, and she was very friendly, and she recognized right away that I was in over my head. And fortunately, she took a liking to me. And even though, I mean, from the minute I got on that boat, I could barely stand up. Thank goodness there were these benches along the side, and I made my way over and sat down and stayed there. And Hannah came out and gave us all a can of sparkling water and a little snack. And, you know, I just enjoyed the scenery on the way out, thinking I'm doomed. I knew I was doomed. And the girls chatted among themselves, and finally we got out there. Beautiful location. I mean, we're in the deep blue sea, and the rocky outcrops and these little islands are sprinkled about. And I'm just wondering, how am I going to do this? I mean, I figure when I get in the water, I'll be okay. But it's from here to there I was worried about. Well, we'd had our snack and it was time to gear up and get in. I recorded that here too. So the beautiful people all went to the back of the boat, and it turned into National Geographic World. Have you ever seen a video of people who are going to scuba or deep dive, and they do that funny little bent leg thing where they jump in the water. They all did it. And I looked at Hannah, probably terrified like a deer in the headlights, and she said, "Don't worry. You're just going to sit on the edge of the extension there, and you can slide in the water. It'll be easy." Okay, and that's what I did. I sat down on it, and no easy feat. And she gave me a little shove, and I went right in the water, and she followed me in. Oh, it was such a relief to get down in that water. And immediately, Hannah said, "Put your face in the water and you'll see the divers swimming off." And I did, and it was just beautiful. Something I'd never seen before. And it was like a snapshot moment. Even though they were the beautiful ones. But that was okay. This was part of my experience that day, and it was really something to behold. So anyway, now I was in the water, and I put my face down and started to swim with the mask on and the snorkel, and Hannah was prodding me and telling me what to do, what not to do. And there was a good bit of distance between us and the shore of the rocks that we were swimming near. And it was so stunningly beautiful. If you have never snorkeled and you get the chance, please do it. Because that underwater world is something to behold. You might see it at an aquarium or something, but to be in it, and even though the fish are kind of scary, and that was the first thing that happened. These big, and I've got them right here. These big gray fish came along, and they had little fins on their backs, and I'm like, "Oh no, baby sharks!" And my head jerked up out of the water, and Hannah looked at me and she goes, "Oh, don't you just love those milkfish?" Oh, thank God, I thought it was sharks. Well, she knew just what to say, and she knew just what I was thinking, which was hysterical, but I wasn't going to let on. I just swam away and looked at all the coral and all the little fishes going around. And Hannah did leave me alone for a little bit so I could just enjoy that scenery. But pretty soon she came back to check on me. And you could see the bottom, but I wasn't brave enough to dive down there. I mean, my snorkel would have gone under, and I think I would have panicked, I don't know. So she saw a starfish on the bottom. And she went down and got it. And she brought it up and motioned for me to take my head out of the water. And she said, "Here, you can hold it if you keep it under the water." And she put it in my hands. And it was, I don't know, kind of like holding a new baby. Just wondrous. And so I handed it back after a few minutes, and she took it back down and put it where it was, and she came back up with a big shell. And I got to hold it too, kept it under the water. Such an experience. And so we stayed out in the water for a while. I don't know, I suppose about an hour, just paddling around, enjoying the sun, enjoying the water. It was so relaxing, and I'm not afraid of the water, and especially that clear water. Oh, something to see. Then Hannah said it was time to go back in, and I thought, oh, well, that wasn't all that long. But it turned out that the scuba divers had a time limit on how long they could stay down, so we had to go back in. And little did I know, that was just the first session. And I was now curious and afraid of how I was going to get back in the boat. Well, more Ticos to the rescue. They did get me back in the boat. Not necessarily with my pride intact, but hey, nobody knew me. And once I was on dry ground again, as even if it was in the boat, I did feel like I probably won't die today. And that was progress. Even though I was really enjoying it, but it was just scary too. I guess that's the definition of an adventure. And then I thought, well, what happens? When do you go back out? How are we going to do that? And the crew brought out some more snacks, more drinks. And the divers were very excited. They'd had a good dive, and they were chatting excitedly. And, you know, they were nice. They asked me, you know, did you enjoy it? Was it fun? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to go back out again. And they couldn't wait. So I sat there thinking, what am I going to do? I don't know if I want to get back in the water. As nice as it was, I really had had enough. And I definitely did not want to get in and out of the boat again. So now what? So I thought about it, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wasn't going back in the water. I wanted to stay on the boat and paint in my sketchbook. Now, I know I paid to snorkel, but this is a beautiful place. Someplace I have never been, never will be again. Why shouldn't I just sit there and paint? That's what I wanted to do, and it was safe. So I broke it to Hannah, and she's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, you came out here to..." I was sure. I was sure. And yes, all the divers looked at me like, old lady, what could I do? I was going to paint. So they all went back in the water. I was glad to see them go. This was a gorgeous place. Now, I wasn't alone on the boat. The crew was still there. And I figured they would wonder what in the world I was doing still on the boat, but hey, my money, my adventure, I'll do it my way. So this actually turned out to be a lot of fun for me. I got out my paints, I got a little glass of water and started to draw. The crew, the little Tico men, started coming back and kind of looking at me curious, and I just smiled and drew in my book. And they kind of would walk by and just kind of, you know, look over and smile. And I smiled back. But this was fantastic. I'm sitting in a boat. I can hear the waves slapping against the side. The sun is intense. The water is so blue and clear. And it was just heavenly, divine. And I was by myself for a little bit, enjoying this scene. It was amazing. And the painting, it's very simple, but it flowed out of the brush. And I was so pleased with how it progressed. And the little guys would walk by and smile. A very, very happy time. And then everybody came back, which I was kind of excited for because, you know, the day was progressing, and I think now we're going to head back. Well, everybody got back on the boat, and when they got dried off, one of the girls asked, could she see what I had done? So I handed it over, And when she looked back at me kind of with new appreciation. And she motioned, can I show it? Yeah. So she starts showing it around, and they're like, ooh and ah. And I was like, wow, they seem to really like that. And they started paying attention to me. They even actually included me in their chatter, and we had a half-hour boat ride back to the shore, and everybody was looking at me, including me, and it was like I wasn't Mrs. Potato Head anymore. But what happened next really surprised me. When we got back to the shore area, we had to transfer from the big boat to the water taxi into the shore again. And much to my surprise, those 7 other people took turns helping me. They got me from the big boat to the little boat to the shore, up the steep bank, into the van. It was so much easier. And they were so protective. I was kind of flabbergasted, and one girl even said, "We must protect the artist." She really said that. I still remember it. It was just delightful. So, what a grand experience overall. And then the people made the day. I went from being totally embarrassed and feeling awkward that morning to a beautiful day of a big sea adventure for me, to having a wonderful time, making friends, and with my artwork, making people see me differently and appreciating me for who I am. I'm not athletic. I'm not particularly adventurous. But it was a good lesson for me, and it was a very good experience. And honestly, I have this beautiful little painting to remember that day. And I just love it. And I can't look at it without recalling that wonderful experience. And best of all, I snorkeled off the coast of Costa Rica at age 60. It doesn't get better than that. So yes, I began the day as Mrs. Potato Head and end up being the artist. So tell me, what kind of experience have you had like that? When did your world fall apart and come back together again, and you didn't think it would happen that way? Please tell me. I want to hear your experience. And I have to tell you, that wasn't the end of Mrs. Potato Head. Stay tuned, because she went to Italy with me. And do remember, you are always welcome here. See you next time.